What's going on, everybody? Welcome back here to the Fantasy Flavor Podcast, where we spicing up your daily lives here with some great fantasy football content. It's a pretty nice day here in Massachusetts, but I'm not alone. I have with me here the full crew, Trenton and Sanatan. How are you guys doing here today?
I'm doing very well. It's Friday night, having fun.
Doing fan flippin' tastic.
Trent has been doing really, really fantastic here. As we thought we were recording, we were not recording. And oh, geez, you guys missed some stuff. But
That was 3 minutes of very high quality content from me. I could have definitely gone on like a comedian tour,
And
you know.
don't
You
worry,
just had to ruin it for me, Dylan. You had to ruin it.
you guys can roast Dylan in the comments.
Oh, please do. Please roast him in the comments. I would love
just
to see
like the
that.
fucking leagues where everyone calls me a fucking trade rapist, and
Oh, they are
what
not
else? They
wrong. They
send
are
shit
not wrong at
trades.
all. Yeah, I am not accepting any of your trades ever.
As he
Oh, hey,
accepts one of my
hey,
trades.
hey. We did a trade though not long ago where it actually we literally fought each other and it
Yeah.
ended up being totally even. But the thing is, it was like third tier guys, so I mean, not even really worth it.
Yeah, the funny part here is he wanted to move up for Philip Lindsay. I believe
Yeah,
this is the trade you're talking about.
yeah.
Yeah. And it was like two spots, but he thought he was gonna go. Honestly, I wasn't taking Lindsay. We
It,
all
it
know
was it
how I
was
like
four it was
Lindsay.
four spots. It was like 4 or 5 spots, and I was because he was the last running back in that tier before a huge drop off on my list. He was the last available, so I had to go up and get him. I mean, I was going with RB0 strategy, and all I had so far at running back was Leonard Fournette, who I don't know if I can trust yet. I needed another guy who could be my RB1 if need be.
And he
All right.
chose Lindsay.
Right.
Yeah,
I,
Philip
and I
Lindsay.
I went
I
over
don't
this
trust
in
him.
Yeah, we
our
don't trust him. He's 190 pounds,
okay,
dude.
okay, keep fighting that, keep fighting that. But for those of you listening, you go and check our Q&A podcast we did earlier this week, and you can hear all I have to say about Philip Lindsay and the whole argument there. But
I,
yeah,
I, I think we should move on.
Yeah,
yeah.
And
that's enough of some trash running back. No, I'm kidding. I have
Oh,
respect for Lindsay. I have
oh.
respect is given. Here's my respect, giving it to you, Phil. All right. So
Phil.
we're gonna talk today about some of the more popular rookie running backs and rookie quarterbacks that came in through this year's 2019 NFL Draft. So we're gonna be talking Cardinals, Kyler Murray, Redskins, Raiders, Eagles. We're gonna maybe ask Sanatan about his David Montgomery versus Miles Sanders take that he missed out on. We're maybe gonna talk about Todd Gurley and his injury too. So I recommend you stay tuned to find out some of the spiciest takes we got here at Sea Flavor Podcast. Are we ready to move on, guys?
I
sure.
sure am.
All right, awesome. Okay, let's break it down by starting off first with the first overall pick here in the NFL Draft of 2019. Back-to-back Oklahoma Sooner quarterbacks going number one overall. First time ever, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. Don't correct me if I'm wrong. I like being right. But, all right, let's start off with you, Snatten. Let's talk about some Kyler Murray.
Oh, me? Okay. Yeah,
Make you
I'm
start for once.
yeah, I was going to give some hot takes on what Trenton was saying that he would not take Kyler Murray in Superflex League at number one. Wow, you said that you would take him around five, right?
Yeah, in Superflex, I still think that quarterbacks are extremely overvalued compared to what
Oh,
they should
okay.
be. Like even in Superflex, the highest I'd take Patrick Mahomes even would be bottom of the second round, top of the third, and
Wow.
that's Pat Mahomes. And
Anyways,
but yeah,
you have your weird own weird rankings, man.
right.
Because Kyler Murray is like far and away number one in Superflex League for me.
You know,
Uh,
I gotta say though, don't diss my weird rankings. I'm the number one guy coming to this year. I'm the reigning champ.
okay, cool.
This
You'll
is
not,
My
cool.
weird rankings work out.
yeah, but
It is
but that is
cool.
not Superflex League.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
We gotta
So
start one of those.
Oh yeah,
Speaking of,
yeah.
yeah, we should. But yeah, Kyler Murray had like 42 touchdowns last year, and along with that, he had like 1,000 rushing yards with 12 touchdowns. So he has a super arm talent and he has a great rushing floor too. So he's best of both worlds for me. And the best comparable player for him in the player profiler is Russell Wilson. So and Russell Wilson is elite in my opinion. I'm a big Hawks fan too. Apart from that, David Johnson came up this week and said that Arizona is going to run like 90 plays every game, 90 offensive plays, which is too
Like,
much. But
well,
even
yeah,
if you,
they're gonna only gonna run that because their defense is gonna let the opponent score in one play
yeah,
every time. So they're gonna
but
keep getting the ball back.
we don't care about that. We don't care about that. We just care about fantasy, offense. So if they are going to run like 90 snaps per game, that will leave like 40 to 50 passes for Murray, and then he will run for 5 to 10 times at least. So imagine his ceiling. I mean, his floor is very, very safe, and then his ceiling is like Baker to me.
I have a question
Uh,
if you don't mind.
yeah,
So Kyler Murray, I agree with you. He'd be my Superflex 101, but I'm a Nikhil Harry guy. So they're very close here for me because I think Nikhil Harry's truly rare. But
I
moving
think
aside here, back to Kyler
I
Murray.
think the listeners should know that you are also a Patriots fan. So let's get that straight first.
Oh yeah, but he was my 101 pre-draft, so you really can't say that. I feel like that's a little unfair because he didn't change for me. But what I will say, I have a couple of concerns with Kyler Murray, but my main one comes from they didn't draft at all with that offensive line.
Yeah.
Josh Rosen got killed, and I mean Kyler Murray can run, but will he have time? You know what I mean? Like they didn't invest anything in the offensive line. I believe they got a tackle from the Pittsburgh Steelers, their starting right tackle, but that's like it. Really,
No,
they
I agree.
drafted like one guy. So
I
how
agree with
can he
you.
be so elite with like such a crap offensive line? Granted, Russell
No,
Wilson did it, but is Murray Russell Wilson year one?
no. But so again, I agree with you on that point. But what I'm saying is that his ceiling is Wilson and Baker on in year one, but his floor is still very safe. Because suppose Cardinals are way behind, right? The other team scores a lot and they are not able to sustain drives in the first, say, 3, 4 drives. Then later, what happens? Then the other team is going to give them space. They are only going to rush, say, 2 or 3 people, and then try to not give them big plays. So what I'm saying is that even in garbage time points, Murray's floor is very safe. That's all I'm saying. And then his ceiling is enormous. Am I making sense?
Well, that's not the only thing that here is enormous. Just kidding. Our
Oh,
takes are pretty enormous. That's totally what I'm talking about. But
yeah.
Trent, you were talking about how this guy isn't really your 101. He's your 105 or something like that.
Yeah,
Can you break that
in
down more for me? Yeah.
Superflex, he's my like 104, 105. I'd still put I think quarterbacks are overvalued in uh Superflex even because you get two quarterbacks, right? But still, that's you're playing in a 12-man league. That's 24 quarterbacks you need that are starting quarterbacks. And I feel like you have about 20 quarterbacks in the league that all can put up starting caliber numbers in any given week. So you can wait on your quarterbacks and still get some decent talent there. And by doing so in Superflex, that's why I love doing it in Superflex because you have the ability to grab when you play Superflex, you have the ability to go out there and get two first round talent caliber players because everybody else is grabbing quarterbacks. And but Kyler Murray would be like I'd still put him behind say Josh Jacobs, David Montgomery, and N'Keal Harry, plus maybe other guys. In regular Dynasty though, non Superflex, he's bottom of the first round, top of the second round.
For
But
me, even in regular dynasty, he is around number 7 for me. I might be very
Whoa!
yeah, I might be very high on him. 7 or 8, I would take him.
Whoa! That's our first spicy take here at the Fantasy Flavor podcast. Whoa! Oh man, I agree with the quarterback
seven,
talk.
7 or 8. But yeah, Kyler Murray on tape is a fantastic quarterback coming out. He will do fine in the league, but the thing is, He's unproven. And if you know anything about me yet, all you listeners, if you've heard anything from the first episode, I always like the proven players more than I like rookies. I want to know what I'm getting. So I prefer a lot of stuff over Kyler Murray. And I prefer running backs and other talent over quarterbacks overall. But Murray is fantastic, but like we said, he's just extremely small, and he could get hurt real easily in the league. Like you mentioned, that offensive line is pretty bad in Arizona, and so and add that to his slight stature, he's going to get roughed around, and it's not going to be pretty. It's just I don't think I think he'll get injured, uh, not not really a lot because he's a great athlete, great competitor. I don't think he'll be off the field for long, but I think he'll get injured enough to really hurt your fantasy football chances. I don't think he'll ever develop into a true QB1. He could be a fringe QB1 in the league a few years from now, but I don't think he'll be that top tier QB1 that you want to go for and grab it.
All right. Well, you
Yeah.
totally just offended. Like before we get back to you here, Sanatan, you just totally offended like all the guys here by saying size does indeed matter. So does size matter? Like seriously, does size matter for the quarterback position? And not in other ways. I know some of our dirty viewers here are like, no, 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 no. I'm talking quarterbacks here, not something else down below, if you know what I mean. I knew it was going to be there in the comment section, so we got to get it out of the way. But does
That
size
Friday
matter for the
night-
quarterback position?
It
Friday
For
does.
the
night
Friday
feels-
night pod.
It does matter. Like if
yeah.
Kyler Murray was say 4 inches longer, taller, then
Longer. Uh-oh. Ding, ding,
Woo!
ding.
if he was
I got
4 to
that.
5 inches taller, he would have seen the field better, and it would have been better. But again, it doesn't matter too much, but I feel it does matter.
I think everybody downplays the whole size is an issue thing. Because sure, everybody sees, hey, Drew Brees did it. Russell Wilson did it. Smaller guys that still are fantastic quarterbacks. Baker Mayfield even, he's relatively small and he's a young guy. But at the same time, think about all those smaller quarterbacks that have been taken other than those three that have not panned out and that have gotten injured a lot, that have been unable to really survey over their offensive line, and all those guys that didn't pan out. And I like to lean on bigger quarterbacks more because they're less injured. Like you look at Ben Roethlisberger. He's not really the tallest quarterback, but he's one of
The
the
fattest
biggest
quarterback.
quarterbacks.
He's
Right.
thick, dude.
He's a thick boy, but he doesn't get injured a lot because he can absorb those blows, and he just takes them and he goes right back up because he's that big. You see, a smaller guy could get injured a lot more easily than do that. Plus, throwing in that poor offensive line, and I think he just will be held back by injuries. It won't be like excessive amount of injuries like you've seen with other players, but he'll get injured enough that it'll really hinder his play.
Again, here I think the offensive system is a big thing. For example, they will run like 4 wideouts.
Right.
So they are not going to get enough pressure on the offensive line because they will need DBs to cover those 4 wideouts.
Right, and like you said, they're gonna with Cliff Kingsbury there. They're gonna
Yeah.
he said they're gonna run like an air raid type offense, which is like what you see in college a lot. But still, you only need to rush three guys. If you have a guy like uh in their division, you have Aaron Donald.
Yeah.
He's good. You only need Aaron. If you rush Aaron Donald against five guys, if you give him like 8 seconds for a 1-on-5, there's a good chance it'll be down to a 1-on-1, or he'll be past all of them because he's just that dominant. Then you throw in two other guys that are rushing with him. That takes him down to a two men blocking him, which we've seen multiple times that he easily does. And it's just still there's always going to be that issue of even if they are forcing the defense to play more nickel and dime packages, it's going to really hurt them. Or they're still going to get hurt by all that uh, their poor offensive line and all those talented rushers in the division and that they're playing.
Yeah, for me, just I haven't dropped too much analysis. I mean, this guy's a really nice profile coming in behind Baker Mayfield. I don't know if we can give him too much, too much crap for that because he's the number one overall pick. His college quarterback rating 100th percentile. College yards per attempt 99th percentile. His Wonderlic score 4th percentile. But who cares about the Wonderlic? You know who has like the highest Wonderlic ever?
I don't know,
I have
but
no idea.
but Goff,
Who else but Fitzmagic, dude?
Hey, Fitzmagic, don't diss Fitzmagic.
he was in Harvard, man.
But overall for
Ryan
me, I think
Fitzpatrick, he's a legend.
I
Do
know.
not talk about Ryan Fitzpatrick that way.
I know.
Not
Probably
in
the
my
starting
house.
quarterback for the Miami Dolphins come week one. Hot take,
Yeah.
fiery, and then sell your Dolphins receivers before he freaking underperforms, or if he does Fitzmagic for a week or two, and then
He
sell
won't
high
be the
on
whole
like
season
everybody.
though. Once they get Rosen in there, because they're gonna start the season. They may start with him in there, trying to get a few games, see what they can do. But the Miami Dolphins won't contend this year. They'll realize that soon enough, and they'll put Rosen in to get their young guy minutes and try to get him into the offense, worked in, and all
And
that
then they
stuff.
will get the number 1 pick in the next draft.
Right.
Take for Tua with Rosen.
Yeah,
What a
Yeah.
strategy.
Rosen's gonna be traded twice in the his
Yeah,
first 3 years.
and this
Oh my
time to
God.
That'd be
CFL.
rough.
He's a good guy too, but
Right.
like,
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
a good quarterback. He just didn't. The teams that grab him aren't good enough to really play
give
to
him
his
that supporting
talents.
cast, right?
Right. And they end up with the number 1 pick. They find a slightly better quarterback in the draft, and they're all like, "Ooh, young guy, I like him more."
All right, so back to
And he's
Murray
young.
here. For me, right, Murray overall, I think I have him as a QB around 12. I'm definitely going to start week one. I think he has a really high combination of a floor and ceiling, and I think this kid's going to be a stud. I loved him coming out. Wish my Patriots could grab him, but they're 31 picks away. Instead, they got like my other favorite player in the class, so really can't complain about that.
So
But I
here's a
want to
question
move.
for you, Dylan.
Quick question, and then we're
So
going to move on. Yep.
yeah, so here's a question for you. So suppose you are picking, say, number 7, 8, say Mecole Hardman, right? Who's your number 7, 8 rank player?
Hold on 1 second. We can pull up those rankings.
I
here.
got you. I already have it.
I have
You're
my
7
rankings
and
up here too. Yeah.
Your 7 and 8 are Fanton Hawkinson.
Yeah, I know. As the guy who's really down on the tight
Okay,
ends.
so here's a question.
Mhm.
What if Murray, goes there and becomes like Baker? Wouldn't you be able to flip Murray next year for Fant plus something?
I mean, that's definitely possible. I also think Baker Mayfield's overrated a little bit because when you think
Forget
about Baker
Baker.
Mayfield, what
Suppose
his price is driving him right now is the fact that he got OBJ because his numbers weren't actually that great. They were solid numbers. I mean,
For a
especially
rookie, they
with
were
all the
pretty good
hype.
numbers, yeah.
Pretty solid, but they weren't like anything special for fantasy. To answer your question, I'd rather have the tight end. I just think it's a bad class overall. And quarterback, I can get a Trubisky. I can get a Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins is so cheap in Dynasty. Buy Kirk Cousins, by the way. He's just too cheap.
no, I agree. But
Mhm.
I'm just talking about rookie drafts and next year. So suppose you were to draft Fant in number 7, and if I draft Murray at number 7, next year I can flip Murray for that same Fant that I was going to draft at 7 plus something else. That's my only logic of drafting Murray earlier. I want those early production in year 1 from my players so that I can flip them for the players that I really wanted and get
Now,
something extra on top of it.
but before we move on,
Mhm.
Dylan, I just want to say you said you were low on Murray, or not Murray, Mayfield, right?
Yeah.
Yet you were the guy that ended up drafting him, right?
In one league, I gotta get my shares of everybody. You gotta balance it out. I messaged you that. Don't you dare try to change my words. So you know
Look,
who I am.
his number 1 guy was Landry, and then Callaway, and these people were the people he was playing with last year, and still posted like 27 touchdowns in what, 13 games, 12 games. He is going to post more than 40 touchdown easy.
Right. But
Oh,
the
wait,
only
fiery take here. Baker Mayfield, over 40 or under 40 touchdowns?
under
What do you
Over
say?
40.
I
under
say
Over 40.
under.
under. See,
I'm over 40.
the only player they really added to that offense was Odell Beckham Jr. And everybody's like, "Oh, Odell's there and Baker's going to throw for 40 touchdowns." No, just because Odell's there, they're still going to pass the targets are still going to be moved around. I think Baker honestly might even get uh under 35 touchdowns. I think that Browns offense is overrated.
Wow. See, he had
Ruh-roh.
yeah, he had
Another hot take.
thrown for 27 touchdowns in 12 games. If he plays 16, he's already at 35. So you don't think OBJ can add those another 5 for him? And OBJ is top receiver in the league, man. Come on.
He
Nah,
has
dude.
he has
Cordell
the potential.
Patterson. No, I'm kidding.
But
I'm I'm lowballing here when I say even 40. I feel it will be much more than
I
40.
swear to God, if you come out and say he's gonna pass for 50 touchdowns, I'm leaving
but,
right now.
but see,
Wait,
here's
you'll
the
say
thing.
it then.
Here's the thing. Even if you take that 35 over the full season there, you'll have to
Huh?
realize that Odell Beckham coming in isn't going to change that as much as you think. Because, sure, it may add a little bit, but the touchdowns that Odell gets will be touchdowns that are taken away from Jarvis Landry and David Njoku. They're not going to they're not going to all put up huge totals in the touchdown department. There's going to be maybe one guy that gets over 10, and then after that it'll be down from there. And it's just I don't see him throwing for too much, honestly.
Alright, we gotta
Well,
move
we'll
on
see
here.
that.
I gotta break
Yeah.
it up. I'm sorry. We gotta move on here.
Right.
Is that okay? I don't want to be rude.
Oh,
But we
No,
that's
gotta
no,
fine.
that's
talk
fine.
Dwayne
That's fine.
Haskins.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
we got a
talked a
little
lot.
sidetracked there with Baker Mayfield. But I want to talk Dwayne Haskins, right? When we talk about a guy like Dwayne Haskins, do you mind if I start it off here? Is that
Go
alright
ahead.
No,
with
you
us?
should.
Oh. Oh. Thanks. All right,
Sounds good.
Dwayne Haskins. This is a guy who had a really nice college QBR, 92nd percentile, I believe. His yards per attempts were great. He came in, I believe, his last year, a 1 year kind of standout, similar to a Mitch Trubisky, except one can run, and one can run according to Stephen A. Smith, and according to like the rest of the population, the answer to that is hell no. But overall, for me, Dwayne Haskins, if I'm really talking about a super flex league, I like the value of Haskins more than I like the value of Murray. And even to counterpoint your kind of thought process of trying to like hype up Murray and redraft, I'd rather have Noah Fant and then like Haskins in like the late second, or Daniel Jones in like the freaking fourth round because he's too cheap right now, than freaking Kyler Murray, and then I don't know, some Garbo tight end like Dawson Knox. Actually, just kidding. Dawson
Dawson
Knox is on my
Knox
team.
or Smith
Sleeper.
Jr.
Yeah, Irv Smith. Not even that. Like
Yeah, he's
Josh
still pretty
Oliver,
good.
like fourth round. You know what I
Oliver,
mean?
yeah, Oliver.
You know what I mean? Like those kind of later tight ends.
Right,
So
right.
Dwayne Haskins is more of a value. I just don't know if I want to pay that premium for Tyler Murray, even if I do believe in him, because he could get injured and I could come in and buy low. Because I'm a value man, you know. Nothing makes me like you more than your ADP. I kind of get those heart emoji eyes, and I'm like, ooh, or that little smirk, when I see that ADP dropping. So it's a little bit of that. But overall, for me, Dwayne Haskins, I like him. The landing spot is good because they have an okay offensive line that always seems to get injured. But Darius Geis is interesting. Adrian Peterson, Chris Thompson, Bryce Love. He has some running backs. But his receivers, if you put me out there, I'm starting day one. I'm just saying the receivers suck. And Jordan Reed can't stay healthy. Vernon Davis, Vernon Davis is old. So overall, that's why it's a long-term investment. But I do indeed like Dwayne Haskins. And I'm curious, where would you guys rank him in Superflex leagues? Where would you guys take him?
Before we get started on this, I just want to tell you to check your DMs, but I'll take it away. Haskins, I like, but the situation he's in is really rough. He's a great quarterback. He had great film. He'll do fine in the league, but his situation on the Redskins, who is he going to throw to? What receivers are on that team? Honestly, if either of you can name me the top 3 receivers on that team, go.
I can name it. Top three receiver. Trey Quinn, Jordan Reed, and Josh Doxson.
Oh, for the Redskins? Oh, I can pretty much name that whole depth chart. I got this.
Yeah.
Trey Quinn, Josh Doxson, Vernon Davis, Jordan Reed, Terry McLaurin, Kelvin Harmon. Um, oh, Harris isn't still there. That was my guy.
No, no, no.
But
Maurice Harris is at Patriots, man. You should know it.
oh, I do know that. I just remembered it. But who else is there? Jamison Crowder left. Here lies the grave of Jamison Crowder. But
Okay,
he
so
has
his
trash weapons. Yeah.
so his number one receiver going into the year, there's a decent chance that it's going to be the bust Josh Doxson as his number one. I mean Doxson,
Paul
he could
Richardson.
turn it around and do great this year, but his weapons just aren't there. Jordan Reed, sure, he's a great tight end when he's healthy, and that's the key. When he's healthy, he isn't healthy enough. But just looking around, honestly, based on uh, what's the talent around the quarterbacks, I prefer Daniel Jones over Dwayne Haskins.
Oh,
And
hot
for
take.
all you people saying, hey, Daniel Jones is a bad quarterback, he shouldn't have been selected where he was at 6th overall, I believe. But he's not a bad quarterback. He was just because he was drafted ahead of Haskins doesn't mean he's a bad quarterback. He was projected to be a first round pick anyway. And the Giants just uh, preferred him. But I think he goes into a perfect situation for him. Sure, he may not start year one, but he goes into a situation where his top receiver, Sterling Shepard, is much better than any receiver, I think, on the Redskins. Sterling Shepard could develop into a decent to good wide receiver one on the team. You have Evan Ingram, who's a top 6 tight end in the league receiving wise, I think. And then, of course, you have Saquon Barkley, who had 90 catches last year. And so he has guys to throw to. Here's the thing Sterling Shepard is good at route running, good at underneath stuff, good in the slot. Evan Ingram is good at route running, good at underneath stuff. Saquon Barkley is good at receiving, short yardage receiving, dump offs, stuff like that. All those guys are short yardage things. Everybody pegs Daniel Jones saying this guy doesn't have an arm. He doesn't have the arm talent. He has enough arm talent to get it done. I feel like he's in like a lesser Alex Smith kind of. He has the mind and he has somewhat of the ability to push the ball down the field, but it's just not great. He's more of a dink and dunker, but he goes into a situation perfect for that. All those guys that can catch the ball underneath and then get those yards after catch, and that situation is perfect for him. Then you look at Haskins. There is no definitive deep threat on that team, which Haskins is known for his cannon of an arm. So he has no definitive deep threat. He has no real big weapons. I'd prefer Daniel Jones over Haskins in general. But even especially in the draft, rookie draft, you can get Daniel Jones in late 3rd, early 4th round, where you get Haskins 2nd round. So that draft value just boosts it for me. But I prefer Daniel Jones.
Yeah, and I want to ask you, Sanatan, sorry. What are your thoughts on Haskins?
I
Just
I
overall
really
as a player.
I really like his arm talent and his poise in the pocket. He throws the ball really, really well. He had 50 touchdowns last year. So and of course he's not a rusher, but he does rush when it is on the goal line. So he might not get you yards, but he will get you like 4 or 5 rushing touchdowns. They might not need him because they have Guys and Bryce Love next year. But again, I agree with Trenton that he doesn't have good weapons, but they can always draft weapons next year. They can always trade for weapons. So, and we are talking dynasty here. So I think Haskins is a really good prospect. I would take him in Superflex say around 6-7 per
But
flex. And
which situation do you prefer though of the two, Daniel Jones and Dwayne Haskins? Who do you prefer of
but
those two in their situation?
the situation for Daniel Jones is good, but he's not starting year one.
Right, but
So how does it matter?
if he was starting right now and Haskins was starting right now, who would you take?
I'm thinking long term. I still think that long term talent will outplay the situation. So
Yeah, I'm
I would
Team
still take,
Haskins.
yeah, still take Haskins.
Yes, I love Haskins' talent, but I think Giant the okay, looking at the Redskins roster, they have Darius Geis as their running back for the future, and they have Bryce Love, and those are their top two offensive weapons.
And
Their
talking about deep
receivers
threats,
aren't that.
Trenton, they have Paul Richardson, they have Terry McLaurin. Both have very good speed. Terry
All right,
McLaurin is
yeah.
his college mate, and they have
Okay,
already
I
have
like Lauren,
built-in chemistry. So
but still, they're going to be a run first team. They're going to try to run the ball down your throat. They're not going to
agreed.
pass that as much as people think they will. And I'm sure year one, Haskins will put up bigger numbers because Jones won't be starting, or he may start like the last half of the season. But in year two, if they keep the same offenses, they keep it the same way, they have the same players, they have the same targets. I like Jones more just because his situation, he has guys that he has receiving threats, receiving weapons, and I just like his situation more.
No, I agree with you. I mean, you can choose any of those, but again, we are talking about a second tier talent in both of those, and it's very difficult to project a second tier talent on what will happen in the future. Haskins had those weapons. Haskins would be really, really good because his talent is very good. I mean, some
Right.
people were comparing his talent to like Big Ben.
Right.
Be-
And I Haskins is the more talented quarterback, sure. He is potentially based on purely off of arm ability. I think he's the most talented quarterback in the class. But it's just this you always have to look at what situation a quarterback is in because you look at Aaron Rodgers. He's the greatest like or gifted most gifted passer I think like coming out of all time, and he's just struggled so much because he doesn't have the right weapons. He had Nelson for a while, and Nelson was about it. Had Cobb as well, and then they got Devonte Adams, but Devonte Adams only really broke out after Nelson left. So, uh, looking like Aaron Rodgers has only had really one really talented wide receiver on his roster throughout his entire career, and that's why he's not been as successful as most think he would be. But you need that situation around you. You need those players around you to be successful, and I just don't think that at this time Haskins has that situation. He doesn't have the talent around him.
Not at this time, but I think Gruden will definitely get him the weapons that he needs.
And I think Gruden definitely will go out there and grab the weapons, but at this given time, it's just too early to tell. You can never know, and I just think it's too much of a risk to pay at the current time.
Speaking of weapons here, before we move on here off of Dwayne Haskins, I do think they actually get Jerry Jeudy next year in the NFL draft. I don't know if you guys saw the Twitter video of Jerry Jeudy absolutely lighting DBs up,
Oh
but
yeah,
if that happens, I definitely do really, 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 really like Haskins there. But I want to move on and talk about the running backs. Is that okay with you guys?
yeah. Good.
Yeah, we still have four running backs here to talk about, but that's okay because we're gonna start breaking it down. I believe this is in order of draft capital. And if it's in order of draft capital, we're going to start off with Josh Jacobs. And I want to get some positive Josh Jacobs takes here before I may criticize him here a little bit. So I believe here the biggest Josh Jacobs truther is Trenton. So Trenton, do you mind starting us off?
Josh Jacobs is should be the first pick in fantasy drafts because he has that raw talent. Sure, N'Keal Harry has a great situation, which I know I just preached situation being huge and how it will really help the player along. But uh, Josh Jacobs is about the only really good weapon on that Oakland team. He's their only guy that he's not going to be Saquon. He's definitely not going to be Saquon, but he will be given a similar workload to what Saquon was, where the team has no other talent but that running back, and they just have to lean on him. And so for the first few years, like I say, first 4 or 5 years, he's going to get massive touch, or he's going to get a ton of touches every single year, and it's just gonna even if he does have a terrible yard per carry or pretty like under 4 yard per carry, and he's still gonna get that enough volume to put up big numbers, and he'll be that top tier running back for 4 or 5 years. He's gonna be not gonna. I don't think he'll get to the RB1 status, but I think with his talent and how the team is built around him, I think he'll be high RB2 uh, this season even, and going into the next 2 seasons. So he's more of your win now for the next couple of years option. Sure, I like N'Keal Harry more for long term because I feel like he's just going to be able to go for a longer time than Jacobs, because Jacobs is eventually going to wear out because they're going to feed him the ball constantly. But for the first few years, Josh Jacobs is your best player from this class. He's going to be your top point getter. Well, non-quarterback wise, he's going to be your top point getter. He's going to be your top guy from this class, and he should go 101.
In my opinion, I have N'Keal Harry 101. I have Josh Jacobs 102. Personally, for me, I don't want to get into an N'Keal Harry versus Josh Jacobs debate because I want to talk about Josh Jacobs here, and we already have taken up so much time. Not that we're in a hurry, but I want to keep it focused here on Jacobs. I just think Jacobs has a few red flags, um, such as his statistical profile. Pretty much anywhere is just kind of bad. The best statistical good thing I could find is yards created is a little bit on his side. I believe he finished top 10 there, was 4th or 5th, and forced missed tackles per attempt. That has a stat there from Graham Barfield, by the way, of yards created. Please check that out. Super predictive running back stat, running back metric stat, for running backs. And he's done a great job with it. That's a writer over there at NFL.com, and he's great. So check that out, especially if you're a Dynasty fan. But moving back on to Josh Jacobs here, that's like the only thing I could find that statistically gives him proof. He hasn't had much workload in college, and just because Kamara did it doesn't mean this guy is Kamara, because he tested worse than Kamara, and like everything, and Kamara was a bad athlete, 37th percentile. I mean, this guy had an awful 40-yard dash, almost a 4.7. His speed, 30%, burst score 35%. Couldn't bench much. He has the nice size. He has to pull flashy plays, but that stuff's all subjective. I need some stuff that's not necessarily opinionated. I want something that's concrete, no bias included. Just because he looks good on film doesn't mean he's going to be good in a true workhorse role. I'd rather have Miles Sanders, who's proven he can take a workload in a year, like straight up like 200 carries and a whole bunch of catches, compared to just a little sprinkle of catches, And he performed worse out of those RBs. Like, when you're just talking about generic yards per carry, like, he was the worst out of the three. Najee Harris, potential high round pick next year, especially in your Devy leagues, your 2020 rookie dynasty drafts, as well as Damian Harris, running back for the New England Patriots. So he just really wasn't that good statistically. I mean, his yards per carry, 43rd percentile. His dominator rating, 15th percent kind of percentile there as well. So overall, for Josh Jacobs to succeed, regardless of the first round draft capital, and I don't know how much I take into opinion of that. Granted, they do normally finish around RB2 finishes. Penny just fell, like, Penny was a complete bust. Let's just be honest. Like, in order for this guy to succeed, my concern is he looks great on film, I agree. He's just a huge statistical outlier of, like, everything we've seen in the past. I don't know. What do you think about him, Sanatan?
No, I really like him, but the only problem I have is the situation because I really don't trust John Gruden and the Raiders. I feel John Gruden is really a old school guy, and he will give what Doug Martin some carries too, and then Jalen Richard will take away some catches. I really feel it will be a committee there too, and they will limit Josh Jacobs touches, but he will be very good at it whenever he gets the test. So he'll be like a poor man's Camara. Honestly, that's what I feel. But again, really don't like the situation for Josh Jacobs. But again, he is really good according to me.
Yeah, for me, I don't know. Just for this guy to succeed, it's hard, and he's definitely bust proof because all the statistics tell you, dude, you're drafting this guy 101, pretty clear cut. Like he may return immediate value, but we've had running backs bust in the past, and not only that, we haven't really had a big one other than maybe Penny. But I feel it's unfair to call him a bust. So is this really the guy? I mean, Alabama running backs haven't worked out too great in the past. You have Kenny and Drake, Mark Ingram probably the most successful. Maybe Derrick Henry you could put an argument for, but they haven't really been that elite to necessarily warrant a 101 pick. But I have him at 102 because of the draft capital, and I like him, and he's great on tape, and he fits this modern NFL of
And
just moving to committees and
just
stuff
to
like
clarify
that.
one thing, like when I
Hmm.
say situation, all of the everyone that I listen to, they think that he's going to be a workhorse, but I don't think that. That's the only thing.
Yeah,
I don't trust Gruden to give him the rock for like 300 carries or 50 catches. That's the only thing. It's just Gruden is an ass.
And see, Dylan, you brought up that the potential for him to bust, but
I don't think so.
look at how many wide receivers bust. Look at how many quarterbacks bust. Everybody's has a chance to bust. I mean, N'Keal Harry has just as much a chance to be a huge bust as Josh Jacobs does. We don't know
Yep.
until we see it. And I think just Jacobs overall has the better talent. He has the better scenario. And it's just like I mean, looking at receivers that have busted. Look at like Josh Doxson, who we talked about earlier. Look at Philip Dorsett, who was 2015, 2016 draft pick, and he's now on
Lacroix
your
Treadwell.
Patriots. Laquan Treadwell, yes.
You're welcome. I don't know why I'm helping you counter my point. I got the counteract, but keep going, keep going.
But still, you see all those wide receivers that bust, and receivers bust just as much as those running backs, even if they are in good situations.
Yeah, we can put
So
question mark on anyone, but the thing here
Mm-hmm.
is that again, Josh Jacobs is still my 101 in rookie drafts. But the thing is that when people are talking in startups, they are taking him
Mm-hmm.
in like fourth round or something, thinking that he'll be a workhorse. I don't think that is the case.
and
That's
I
fair.
think I think that's kind of crazy that you see him taken in the fourth round, because
Yeah,
I mean, highest I'd look to take him is probably sixth round, and
yeah,
that's still high, I think.
and he's
But
very
No.
close to Montgomery than people think. I
right,
think.
I think Montgomery honestly is the better back in this draft. He's the best back in this draft because he has the best situation.
Yeah, he has the best situation. That's what I'm saying. That Nagy can use him much better than Gruden can use Jacobs.
Right.
That's what I feel.
And we'll
Mhm.
talk about him more here in a few
Yeah.
minutes
Yeah,
when
in a
we get
second.
on to him. But
Just before we move on here from Josh Jacobs, I just want to make a point. I wasn't saying Jacobs will bust. I'm just saying statistically, if you look at all the statistical data, this guy looks like a bust, 100%. And that's what I'm saying. Like, statistically, there isn't really much to prove that he won't bust. And that's what scares me. Granted, I have him at 102, and I really agree with you guys about everything. Whether he's a workhorse, that's awesome. If he's not, well, he never really was to begin with, and he can still produce at an elite level, at least in college football, and maybe he could return some high end RB2 numbers there. Before we move on quickly here, would you rather have Josh Jacobs on your fantasy team or Darius Geis?
Josh Jacobs.
mm, See, I love Darius Geis. I loved him coming out of school. I loved his tape. I think he is the better back of the two, but I'm more just worried about the injury history.
I'm
I
more
don't know
worried
if he
about
could
the
get injured
situation
again.
that this year they are going to be a terrible offense, and then next year Bryce Love will be back, and then they will split. That's my only concern.
But the thing is, they're bad offense. Haskins has nobody to throw to, really, as we've said before. And Geis will be that workhorse for this year. He's going to get all those touches. So I think he'll be in a similar situation to what Josh Jacobs is. And overall, I just think that Geis is the more talented back. So I think I'd pick Geis.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Definitely some mixed results here, but that's all here we have. That's all she wrote for Josh Jacobs.
Honestly, I may be just high on Geis because I'm a LSU fan, but
Oh,
Geis is like it was said in a report like a few years ago. There was like an article written about Leonard Fournette and Darius Geis, and it said that aside from a few select teams in the nation, when Leonard Fournette was the lead back at LSU, aside from a few teams such as I think it was Georgia at the time, which had a few really good players. I forget who it was,
They always have good
and
players.
right, and then there was one other team. But aside from those teams, that Darius Geis would start for almost every other team in the country because he was that good of a running back. And he just is an amazing player on tape. He's honestly, I think he's better overall on tape. Like coming out of college, I think he was better overall than Fournette because he could actually go out there and he had the ability to catch those passes. Like he didn't do it often, sure, but that's just because LSU didn't throw the ball much because they had fantastic running backs. But it's just
Yeah,
uh, yeah,
I'm just worried
yeah.
that this year Jacobs will have more production, and the next year he will be costlier than guys. That's my only concern here.
Before we move on here, I want to say Trenton quickly. Oh, he just did. Thank you very much here. And now I believe next in order of draft capital this is, but I don't think our consensus rankings agree with this being our RB2 necessarily, is Miles Sanders, running back here for the good old Philadelphia Eagles. I want to make this one a little quicker here, for me personally, because we already talked about Miles Sanders and David Montgomery, who will be next here, so stay tuned for that, with just Trenton and I. So I really want to ask Trenton his opinion. So I'll make my point quick. 77th percentile spark score, athletic. He was one of the few backs in this class that tested athletically. He was a really highly recruited, I believe top 15, the number one running back, top 15 overall, number one running back out of his high school class. So he has talent. Let's not kid ourselves here. Good size, 5'11", 211. Maybe a little heavier, I'd prefer. But good size, right? Just turned 22. Lands on a team with like really no good running back, especially a receiving back. So he can come in and take over that receiving role immediately, and he can slowly ease into that rushing role. Once a lot of these Philadelphia backs leave in free agency, which he's the only one under contract. Granted, they're definitely going to sign somebody. Let's not be cute here. But is it going to be Jordan Howard on a more expensive deal? Is it going to be, I don't know, someone cheaper like a Wendell Smallwood, who's apparently a god according to Trent, even though his last name's Smallwood, and there's no way someone named Smallwood will ever be good in the National Football League. Sorry.
and they even have Corey Clement, who's a pass catching back.
Yeah, but he's gonna
Yeah,
have his role, and I think the good thing, even though it's a committee, this guy may not never have that elite RB1 upside, but Philadelphia's a good enough offense, and we've seen it in the backs in the past, like LeGarrette Blunt, JHI when healthy. They've actually put up good RB numbers. So I think it's a little over dramatic to call it like a death sentence,
yeah,
especially with all those backs leaving. And
Right.
Doug Peterson, even though he's ranked committees, he comes from Andy Reid, similar to Matt Nagy, which are very one running back heavy focus. And that's even proven Andy Reid's philosophy by them coming out recently and saying, Damian Williams, we wanted to be the featured guy. So I'm curious if he is actually a committee guy or he's kind of forced to run a committee because you have LeGarrette Blunt who can't catch passes, you have JJ who can't catch passes. You know what I mean, like a whole mess there. So I'm really curious about that. What are our thoughts on Miles Sanders, and what puts
And
him below these other two running backs for us?
it's just Sanders, great running back and all, but we don't know yet if they're gonna do committee or if they're going to let him be the lead back. So, based on immediate value, I like I really really like David Montgomery more than I like Sanders because Montgomery's that clear cut number one option on a team that always runs with an RB1, and we'll get that. But Sanders, all we've seen from the Eagles the past 2 years is a running back by committee, and they have Jordan Howard, who's a talented running back. They have Smallwood, who's a talented running back. They have Clement, who's a talented receiving running back. They have other talented backs on that roster. Sure, Sanders is far and away the most talented of them, but are they just going to let those talents sit there on the bench while Sanders gets 20 touches a game? No, right away. I think for the at least year one, Sanders is going to be more of a in a committee. He'll lead a committee, and Montgomery is just going to right away. I think he'll be that workhorse and uh uh on the Bears.
I feel, I echo whatever you both said actually. So if you are more, if Sanders is more risky, but he has the higher ceiling than Montgomery.
Right.
But Montgomery is more safe, but lower ceiling than Sanders because Sanders is much more talented. He has the breakaway speed that you want in a back. He's a much better pass catcher. Can't say much because Montgomery is also very good. But yeah, he's a much better catcher, and he's the number one pass catcher at in Eagles, whereas Tariq Cohen is still there with the Bears. So I would, if I have a very good team, I would draft Sanders ahead of Montgomery because I can take that risk. But if I have I need a quick production, then I will take Montgomery.
Yeah, my
Right.
question here with Philadelphia quickly here is we're kind of talking about how it's going to be kind of a committee. We talked about Josh Jacobs and how we think that may be a committee and he's not going to be a workhorse. And the Bears try to make Jordan Howard a three-down back, didn't work. And then Tariq Cohen, let's not cut around here. He broke out. He had a great year in his role. He's going to catch a lot of passes. He's still going to be featured. So all three of them are kind of committees.
Yes.
So what makes Sanders' committee way more scarier behind definitely the best offensive line? Um, you could argue the best offense as well. I think I'd say the best offense with a healthy Carson Wentz. Um, what makes his committee just more scarier to us? Because
Just
I feel like it's overblown here a little bit with
just
all these
Because
other backs.
if you look at this, Dylan, that we always say, right, there are like 300 touches up for grabs. In Philadelphia, there are only 24 touches up for grabs. That were, I think, Ajayi touches, 24 or 50, whatever it is. Because all the running backs that they had last year, everyone is there, and then they added Jordan Howard on top of it. So it's much more crowded than Bears is because in at Bears they still Montgomery still has say 250 rushing attempts from Jordan Howard's, which is up for grabs, and I think he will get say 200 of those. Mike Davis will still have 50 to 80 of those.
right.
So
And the
that's
the
why.
the, the thing with uh Montgomery is with Miles Sanders, he's going into his committee where everybody in that committee can run the ball really well. Montgomery is going into if it is even is a committee because he can catch the ball, so he's better than Jordan Howard in that regard, and I think he'll take some catches away from Cohen. But even if Cohen gets all those receptions, Cohen isn't really going to run the ball much. And so there's all those rush attempts that fall to who else but Montgomery.
But
Montgomery is
again, I
going to
don't
be
agree
that
with
leading
you here,
rusher.
Trenton, that in Philadelphia everyone is a good rusher. Only Jordan Howard is good, and he's
Yeah.
also new. No one else can even come close to what Sanders can do.
I think
They're honestly
okay,
overrated.
sure, not close, but Smallwood can run the ball. He proved it when he had the
If
chance. But Smallwood can run the ball. Uh, Corey Clement can run the ball better than Cohen. And of course, Jordan Howard can run the ball. They all have the ability to really run the ball with decent success. Cohen is just too small to really run the ball with success consistently. And sure,
I mean, is it
there's
more because of their talent or because of the Philadelphia's O line? I think still Sanders behind that O line will be really, really good.
That's a top
The
O
only
line.
problem, yeah, the only
Yeah.
problem with Sanders is his fumbles. He
okay.
has a high fumble rate.
Mm.
Let's clear this up right here. That's not the top O line in the league.
Okay, sorry, top 3 or 5. Our bad. I don't think
That
the
that
narrative changes though. Like all
okay.
the
So
lines were pretty close. It wasn't like a 2016 Cowboys line where it's just way
right,
better than the rest of the league. Like all the lines are close,
And it will
right,
be
right?
even better than last year because they drafted a very good offensive lineman this year in
Yeah,
the first
Andre
round.
Dillon. Yep.
Yeah,
right. But I'm just more worried about Sanders because he has the big thing with Sanders is it's not that it's just a committee, it's that there's so many backs in that committee.
agreed.
There's too many backs in that committee, too many mouths to feed. And then you go to Chicago, uh you
Three.
have Montgomery, you have Cohen, and then a little bit of Mike Davis.
Yeah, everyone thinks very little, but I still think Mike Davis will command some carries because he's similar to Montgomery, uh, talent-wise, not
Right.
like
Right.
that because he can run and catch both. So I think he will still have some role in there.
Right.
Yeah. Um. Overall, for me, I don't know. I feel like all three of them are committees, and all. This is just a weak RB class. Like these guys aren't
Yeah,
bad, but just think the class is just so weak. That's why I have the tight end so high. Even though I like their talent, I just think even Kyler Murray I have a little bit high. I just think it's such a class where everyone actually has a pretty decent chance to bust. Granted, all NFL prospects do, but these red flags. Maybe we're being a bit nitpicky, but it's just like, wow, like these guys have like legitimate red flags and could all legitimately would not surprise me if all three of these running backs are in like flat out committees. Would that surprise
Y-
anyone here?
You know what,
At
Dylan?
all.
What surprises me is that before the draft, everyone was like, "Oh, it's a very weak class. It's a very weak class." And as soon as the draft ended, when we see these startup drafts, suddenly people are like high on Josh Jacobs or Montgomery or Sanders, saying that, "Oh, they are, such great backs that they will be RB2 instantly. They are going in round 4, 5." So that's what just baffles me a bit.
Right.
Yeah,
Dylan, I believe you touched on this in our mailbag section, our first episode, when you said that looking at uh, Josh Jacobs and Nikhil Harry as your top two, you would have you had like what 7 players in the 2020 draft that you put ahead of those guys.
indeed, that is indeed correct, and I could name them off here if you want me to.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'd take Travis Etienne, DeAndre Swift. This is off of memory, so I may miss a guy by the way.
Right.
That's two, right? Jerry Judy
Fine.
definitely. Lavisca Chenault. I'd take Cam Akers. I might forget someone by the way, so please don't come after me. Like if I miss somebody here. Who else would I take? If it's super flex, I take Tua over and Justin Herbert over as well. As for other players, maybe Najee Harris, I like a little bit more than most. I
Right.
also really, really
Depends on
like.
situation for
I didn't say
Harris
Jonathan
though.
Taylor. I don't think I said Jonathan Taylor. He's like my RB3, most certainly. Could be like the RB1. Could be the first running back honestly drafted. He's dominated at Wisconsin. As well as I also like CeeDee Lamb. So your 7 are Jonathan Taylor, CeeDee Lamb, Lavisca Chenault, Jerry Judy, Cam Akers, Travis Etienne, and DeAndre Swift. That's not in order, by the way, but
And then
that's pretty much it.
even in the 2021 draft, I know I'm shooting way ahead here and projecting, but you look at talent in that draft. There's a lot more talent than there was in this draft. You have Rondale Moore. You have some other really talented coming into their sophomore year players now. Rondale Moore, I think, leads that list. I think in 2021 he's going to be one of the better available. But you have so much more talent even in that draft. You had more talent, I think, even in the 2018 draft It's just 2019 was kind of a weak draft, and everybody just is like, oh, this. Everybody's remembering what it was last year. Everybody's thinking, oh, this guy's going to be this year's Saquon, because Saquon blew up last year as the first overall pick, and everybody's like, Josh Jacobs is going to get those touches. Jacobs is going to go in, and he's going to blow up, dominate the league. No, he's not. He's not Saquon. He's not going to go and blow up that league. He'll do fine, but he's not going to give you those huge numbers. And I think it's overrated, the whole entire draft class. And like I said, he's my first pick in the draft. He'd be my first pick in rookie drafts, but in redrafts and even startup dynasty drafts, he'd be at the highest a sixth round pick, fifth, sixth round pick.
Yep. Yeah,
Yep.
glad we have that cleared out. So,
Right.
in rookie drafts we don't have options because again, who else would you take?
Yeah, people say this class, to wrap this up, is kind of there's some depth to it. In my opinion, there's kind of like 8 guys I like. Specifically, I think I have like 4 in the first tier there. Those 3 running backs and Harry that I like really like. I'm actually a little more confident on, and then I think the rest of it's kind of garbage. And it's like, granted, some of those people will obviously hit. It's just like it's like a crapshoot. You know what I mean? Like you
Right.
can
And
find, of course, some value, but I'm like, wow, these guys have legitimate red flags like everywhere.
right, and you if you can have a very deep class, but you need talent ahead of that. You need talent that you can take early. All these guys, like even Josh Jacobs, is in any other draft, he'd be more of that a very one of those good depth guys in the draft. He wouldn't be that top guy. And it's just there's so much depth. Sure, all those guys can pan out. They're going to be great, but if they do pan out, I think the overwhelming majority, if all of them pan out, they're going to be like second options at
Okay,
wide
here's a more
receiver.
Trenton, here's a more interesting question. We were talking about future. Many people don't even know the names from 2020 or 2021 draft class. So here's a better question. Where would you take Josh Jacobs in last year's running back class? So of
Josh
course not
Jacobs.
Saquon. Of course not. What's the Browns running back man?
Nick Chubb,
Nick Chubb. Maybe below Kerryon Johnson.
Darius Geis, if we're counting before injury, which I feel like is
Yeah.
fair. Below Darius Geis.
All right, I'm just gonna pull this up like the what NFL.com had for the 2018 fantasy football dynasty rankings. I'm gonna look at put him on the list where I think I'd select him in there.
Yeah, that's fine. And why? Wait, you ready? If not, I want to make a
Yeah,
point if you don't
yeah.
mind. Okay, go ahead.
I'd probably put him like after year one of knowing what they all did. I'd put him sixth. I'd put him behind Barkley, Geis, Michelle, Chubb, and Calvin Ridley.
Not
And I
not
might even
behind
put
Kerryon Johnson.
Kerryon Johnson would be right behind him as well as DJ Moore. But those 5 I'd put
Wow.
ahead of him. He'd be the sixth guy off the board, and he's going first overall this year. That's
I am
just
very high on
insane. It's
Kerryon
just
Johnson, man. I
crazy.
would never Josh Jacobs ahead of Kerryon Johnson. He's
No,
much more talented.
I have KJ higher too, but for me overall, people are like trade back in this class because next class is so stacked. Well, I agree with that. If you manage to keep your higher pick, I mean, you got one of the good guys, and probably the person you trade back didn't really get a good guy. So overall, I feel like those higher round picks, you should actually be a little grateful because you actually got that better talent because it's just how bad like the talent is. Granted, I think some of the talent's close. I mean, you get like the guy with like the better situation. Do we agree with that? Do we disagree with that here quickly?
I totally agree.
Yeah.
All right. So I want to thank everyone here for listening here so far. We're over an hour in, and that's awesome. I want to thank everybody here so much for keep listening. Stay tuned. We're gonna talk about David Montgomery here, and then we're gonna talk about Darrell Henderson, and we're gonna wrap it up. So,
Dylan, here I think we have already covered Montgomery and Sanders pretty well. We have
okay.
compared them. We have
Yeah,
already
it's just
talked about
a pretty
Montgomery.
good
I think we
comparison.
should move on to the most exciting back, which is Henderson.
Okay, potentially most exciting pick.
Yeah.
He's like, you'll see what we have yet to see what will happen.
They're exciting as in like lot of debate
Right.
because
Yeah.
this
Okay.
guy
Okay.
is
Yeah.
all over
I'll
the
give you
place.
that. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think we'd have all three of these backs over Darrell Henderson, right? And I believe
Right.
for you, Sanatin, you would rather have David Montgomery than Miles Sanders, right? So that's
Yeah,
just kind of the consensus order: Josh Jacobs, David Montgomery,
no,
Miles Sanders,
no,
then Henderson.
I would have Miles Sanders over Montgomery because my teams are good.
Oh, okay. Actually, good to know because I drafted Miles Sanders in a couple of leagues. But all right,
But your team sucks, so you should have Montgomery.
Sanders is shooting for the upside.
Yeah,
Montgomery is shooting for the floor.
yes,
my team
agreed.
sucks. I think my team's gonna be better than yours this year, and you would agree as you ranked me higher. So that's some bullshit. All right, let's talk about Henderson though. Here, Henderson was a guy I was really high on because I was kind of looking at the running backs. I had those three guys higher, but they're really close in talent, right? And I thought Henderson would go last because of the size concerns. Size does not matter. All people are freaking angry at me right now, but who cares? Size was a little bit of a concern if he was going to be a workhorse, but I really thought he could go to like the Chiefs specifically, but also like a Tampa Bay, maybe a Houston on explosive offense. Have such an explosive player on explosive offense, but he goes to the Rams. Todd Gurley's not there. Probably 101. But Todd Gurley is there, and there's some injury concerns there. And his ADP skyrocketing. I believe someone in our league got him around that second round, 202 to 205, somewhere around there, in one of our rookie drafts. But Henderson, yards created, loves this guy. And I go back to yards created because it's been so predictive here with Dynasty running backs, and he ranks second all time in yards created. This guy's good. Darrell Henderson is good. He had crazy breakaway runs. I mean, it was ridiculous. About like how much breakaway runs did this guy have? Probably like more than 10 of like 30 plus yards. And athletically, he tested better in the class with a 4.49 40-yard dash. He dominated college 77th percentile. This guy's also a great receiver. On top of his 8.9 yards per carry as well, he also was not lined up just in the backfield to catch balls. He was like lined up like out wide as like a receiver. And that's why I so wanted him on a team that could use him immediately, as Tampa Bay attacks in some of those spots that didn't necessarily get filled. Because I'm like, wow, this guy could be good. If he has like a good line, which he had at Memphis, he had a freaking great line. Oh my god, great line. He could really produce. And well, he gets stuck behind Todd Gurley, potentially in an Alvin Kamara-esque role. But I do think Todd Gurley is better than Mark Ingram, and I am actually seriously concerned about the injury. My fear with Darrell Henderson is his ADP is going to skyrocket so much. And the worst case scenario for an MGAD like prospect like Darrell Henderson is he's going to get stuck behind Todd Gurley, kind of like Fred Jackson was it, and they're going to be Todd Gurley will like miss a few games, you know what I mean? But since he'll be used so much less in this committee, he won't actually like truly get injured. You know, steal all the goal line touches because 5'8", 2'8" running back. And Darrell Henderson can't really do the goal line as well as you'd hope. So that's my fear for anybody drafting both of these, because I feel like there's Team Henderson or there's Team Gurley. I like Gurley's ADP slipping if I can grab Henderson later or in a rookie draft. But the problem is Henderson's getting almost too expensive to the point where you're probably investing around like a second round pick in Gurley or a late first. And then I've seen some crazy stuff. I've seen like 6th round for Henderson. Like that's too much for me to like be a handcuff. But if you're talking like 10th round or on later, like I definitely don't mind drafting Gurley and Henderson as a handcuff. But I really like Henderson. It wouldn't surprise me if he's literally the best back from this class when it's all said and done. You just gotta put him below this tier because Todd Gurley's there. Unless he like retires or like dies. Please don't die, Todd Gurley. I didn't mean that. What are your guys' thoughts on this guy, Darrell Henderson?
Yeah,
Henderson, you compared him to Alvin Kamara, right?
I said he'd be using a Kamara-esque role.
Right.
Player profile has him as an
But
MJD, which I think is a little better. But I think the roles could be similar. I don't think Henderson's as good as a receiver. Granted, he was used that way, which is very, very encouraging. I really wish he went to the Chiefs because perfect fit. But continue.
Based on young current running backs, I think he like his comparison would be C-Mac, because that's that young, small, or like undersized running back that can catch passes from the wide receiver position and can still run the ball with success. Sure, he's smaller, but he can still do it. And I think that if Todd Gurley ends up getting injured again and is kept out, or kept out at all. And I think that Henderson has a lot of upside, and on that team that's has a fantastic offense, can really go in and dominate if Gurley goes down. And I think he is fantastic, but at this time he's still behind Gurley. Gurley is still there for as long as we know, or and until we hear differently. Gurley is going to play this season. Gurley's going to be there to take all the touches pretty much. He's going to be the workhorse. But if for some chance Gurley does go down, I think Henderson will do fantastic. I think he'll put up some really good numbers.
Yeah, I think that's fair too. Henderson is indeed a very, very, very talented player. Um, where would I don't know. I could see late first. I might draft him late first. Where would you guys draft him in a
I,
rookie draft?
I would draft him, say, ninth or 10th. The thing is that he's going very very early nowadays, and when people say that okay, you draft Gurley because he's dropping and then pair him with Henderson, that's not happening. He's going so early that you are not going to be able to pair them up. The other thing is that he landed in the best possible like offense that he could land in. So either this one, either the Rams or the Chiefs are the two offenses that really match his skill set perfectly. So he did land in a very good offense, but the thing is that Gurley is there till 2021 for sure. So 3 more years, he is not going anywhere. And sure, he might miss some games, or he might, his workload might go some little bit down. Are you willing to pay like sixth round startup for Henderson? I am not going to do that. I would rather grab Montgomery or Sanders
Yeah.
in the fifth. I mean, this his ADP is going nuts right now. That's the whole reason I thought that we should bring him up, because I love this guy. He was my favorite running back in this class, because I did not have any first or second pick in rookie drafts, but I was thinking that I want to grab Henderson wherever I can. But
Yeah.
again, he just landed in a position where uh, I mean, I don't want to draft him at sixth or seventh in rookie drafts where he's going right now.
Right, and like you said, he's has a fantastic situation he's in. He's a fantastic back. The issue is that as long as Gurley is there, Henderson won't get the touches. And
Yes.
that's the issue. You're projecting for his ADP. People are seemingly projecting that Gurley is going to fall off a cliff or get injured again or leave. And Henderson is just even in rookie drafts, I'd take him second round because I don't want to pay that much for a projected handcuff.
The other thing is that when people compare Henderson to Camara, I would not do that, because Camara has a very good balance. He breaks tackles, so many tackles, but Henderson is not good at that. He is very good at in open spaces. So if there is no one, he'll just run away to the for a touchdown. So is that kind of a, back. He's
Right,
not
which is
one who will break
why I
tackles.
think he's more favorably compared to C-Mac. Smaller
No,
guy, not breaking
C-Mac is
tackles, but he
also.
can catch the ball.
But C-Mac breaks tackles too. I would not compare him to C-Mac too. I don't know whom I
Mm,
should compare him to, but C-Mac is very good at breaking tackles too, and C-Mac is a much better receiver than Henderson.
yeah, I agree.
So
And
Yeah.
Henderson's a north to south guy. He can't go east west.
yeah,
He just doesn't have that. So that's why I feel
yeah,
like it's unfair to say a C-Mac or Alvin Kamara. I think he could
yeah.
fit those roles. I also think he's more explosive. Like he can break off for a touchdown better than any of those guys.
He needs to have a very
But
good O line to
yeah, he
function.
needs a
I
good
feel.
and he has that with the Rams. Granted,
Yeah, exactly.
Whitworth
Right.
Yes.
Whitworth's gonna retire. Saffold left. John
No, but
Sullivan's getting old. So by the time he could actually do stuff, maybe too late.
no, but their offensive scheme is still the same, right? They have three wideouts. Then they have this. They are thinking of two backs and then tight end and those things. So they are all spread out, and then he gets a lot of room to run, and his burst is like out of the world. So he'll get those chunk yardage, but he will also have like negative yards or 0 yards a lot.
100%.
In the like you said, Dylan, the situation where his offensive line is aging and leaving, and that's an issue with the Rams. But at the same time, when you look at overall team situation, I think the most important factor is coaching continuity.
Yes.
And they have a young stud coach there, and Sean McVay, who's going to be there for a long time, and I feel like he will at least give that continuity to the run game, and they'll find decent O linemen to cover for those guys they're losing, and I think that uh, run game is still going to be fine. Sure, it won't be as prolific as it was, but it'll be fine. It's not going to be horrible right away.
Oh, I agree. It's not going to be horrible. I just don't know if it's going to be a top three, top five. It could be maybe a top 10 line ish, but I can't remember their draft capital. I think they're pretty okay on it, especially because they traded back a lot this year. But linemen have been pretty rare to find, especially good ones. The good news is you can find them more in the later rounds. And granted, I agree
You
with
know
you. The scheme's always going to make the offensive line good, but I don't know if it's going to be
exactly.
good enough that he needs. You know what I mean? Like I
So
feel like this guy needs like a top five line. I don't know if the Rams can be consistently that, especially once Whitworth retires.
So Dylan, I had the same exact thinking about Cardinals' offensive line because last year they had a terrible offensive coordinator, and then Rosen isn't running much. So that's why the offensive line was looking much worse than actually it is. And I feel that Kyler Murray will make and Kingsbury will make the O line very good. Same thing with the Rams. I'm not very worried about their O line because McVay's offense and his schemes are good enough to make the line look much better than they are.
Yeah, my point is that it's not that I think the O line's bad. I still think they can be like top 10, especially once all these people age. I hope if they draft and invest in their offensive line. If they then don't, then I'm concerned because I think the scheme's great, and I agree with you. That's exactly what I thought, by the way, with David Johnson and kind of the run blocking there. But my point is, I feel like Henderson. I'm just talking Henderson here. Henderson
Yeah,
really needs like incredible blocking,
I agree.
and I don't know if the Rams long term can give him
And he
that.
he needs big holes, whereas Montgomery and Sanders are very good even with small holes. They can do much better.
See,
Yeah,
I
Henderson's.
disagree because I mean, watching tape on Henderson, sure, he's not known for hitting those holes and like those small holes, finding those small gaps. But I've seen on tape enough instances of him doing that he's capable of doing it. He just needs the coaching, and that goes all the way back to the coaching. And you have Sean McVay, like I said, a young stud, young offensive-minded coach, and I think Henderson will do fine with those with even if his line is only top 10, top 15 even. I think he'll be okay. It's not like he needs an O line to be successful. He's a talented running back. He has the talent to be successful no matter what,
No,
and he's
that was my
explosive
first
enough.
sentence. That this was a match made in heaven. He went to the perfect situation, the perfect coach, the perfect offensive scheme where his talents can be maximized. You put him in, say, uh, Miami. You think he will do better? I don't think so.
No,
Honestly, I don't think so.
No,
I
not
think
at
it's a
all.
good landing spot too. I
Yeah.
just, it's just me nitpicking, and I love Henderson. Like I said, yards created. This guy's gonna be good because I love yards created. I trust it. It's been very accurate. Only person I was off on is Kenny and Drake, and Kenny and Drake doesn't even suck. So I think he's gonna be good. Definitely, just bad landing spot. Granted, if Gurley just dies, we're gonna look back and we're gonna say, "Wow, this guy was
Don't
still
say
such
that,
a
man.
value."
I
And
have
All right,
Gurley in
talking
my.
about
okay. If Gurley dies for fantasy football purposes, Gurley's
talking
not
No,
actually
about
gonna die. I
no,
hope you
he's in my
realize that.
dynasty
Gurley,
league. Don't say that. I'm
oh,
so worried
sorry.
about
Dude,
Gurley.
God, Gurley's gonna freaking dude. He's gone. Oh my God. He's gonna give you negative points, and he's not even in your starting lineup. That's how dead
talking
he
about
is.
Kenyon Drake though. Kenyon Drake isn't bad. He's not a bad running back at all. He's a good running back. It's just the issue is over his entire career, he's only had like 10, 12 touches per game max every game. Like that's a maximum game. Most games he gets less than that. He's just is he hasn't gotten enough consistent touches. I think this year he's a sleeper for me. He's gonna blow up huge, and he'll do fantastic because he's that lead back. He's gonna get those touches. They said they want to get him more touches this year, see what he can do with it, and he did fantastic with minimal touches. And I think if he gets more touches, he's gonna, even if he regresses slightly in the yards per carry and all that stuff, he'll still put up good numbers. And I think he'll
Okay.
put up some really good numbers.
Yeah, let's come back to this topic after I want to put one question here.
Go ahead.
When while we are in Henderson and Gurley topic, where would you guys take Gurley in a startup dynasty draft?
Dylan, you can take this one.
Yeah, I can take this one. Sure. Hold on. Can you give me a minute to pull up like running back rankings?
All right, yeah.
But for me,
I'll just
Like in
give like
second
a
round,
I want to
third
say
round,
something.
fourth
estimate.
round,
Hold
where
up,
would
I
you
want to
be
say something.
comfortable? Yeah.
Just overall, I'd really recommend people who want to know more about the Gurley injury, to check out a video Nick Ercolano did, with Jesse Morse, the fantasy doctor. Overall, I think he talked a lot about Gurley's injury, why the arthritis is concerning, why he is fading him. But overall, for me, I'd start considering Gurley after, honestly, third round, fourth round, and I'd
Ooh.
really want to know Henderson's like ADP and where he'd go in my draft, because like I said, I need both of them, but I just think Henderson's cost is too much. So honestly, I'm just fading him in general. But like
See,
third, fourth round is where I start considering him, but I'm fading him. I highly doubt
see,
I'd ever take him.
I'm fading on Gurley too, but I'd still think about it late second, early third,
I'm with
because I mean,
I'm yeah, go ahead.
even if he does have that injury and it continues to get worse and he ends up being out of the league in the next 4 years, he is he's coming off a year in which he was the best running back in the league, and he just blew up, and he did that the year before as well. He's going to be a good back for 2 or 3 more years. He's going to be a really good back. It's not like he's just going to suddenly disappear and everybody's just like, oh no. You get that for 2 or 3 years. You get that really high top tier back.
So follow-up question here, Denton. So last year Gurley was number one. Where do you think he will be in the next 3 years? Like RB10, RB12? What do you think?
Next year, honestly, I think he's still going to be a top 5 running back. The
Oh
following
wow.
year, I think he's top 8 probably, because I think that's when he'll start to really, the
You think he
arthritis will
will
catch
be
up with
top
him.
five in 2019?
Oh right, yeah. This year he'll be top 5. Yeah.
So why would
Okay.
you take him in the late second and third and not like a top 5 running back?
Because he doesn't have to.
Because that's where people are taking him. See, I'm looking at the value of the ADPs, and people will be taking him around there, and I want to get my hands on a guy because if you can take him there, say you have the first pick in the draft, you grab one of Saquon, C-Mac, and Kamara. Get the uh, you get with your next pick, you can get another top 5 running back because that's where he's being drafted. So that it's insane where his value is because people are so shy of his injury. I think he'll still be a very good back in the league for a few more years.
But it's
Here's my
dynasty. Why would you want someone for a few more years when you can have, say, on Johnson for next 8 years?
Early championship pushes.
Okay.
Would you rather have on
Okay.
Johnson for 8 years and be a fringe championship team, or have Todd Gurley and another RB1 and compete immediately? Like,
No,
just
I
go
agree. I
for it.
mean, you just made it clear. So that's why my
yeah.
question was to, get that sentence out from you.
Here's my point on Todd Gurley. All right, you cannot have your first early picks bust, and you gotta avoid injuries. We try to be cute with Doug Baldwin. His ADP slept. Slept. People are like, wow, what a value, what a value, what a value. Bust, right? Marlon Mack, kind of the same thing. Granted, he came back at the end of the year, so that's an example of it kind of working. But by that time, he probably already lost a lot of games. You're not investing the same ADP as in Gurley. And to answer your question about Gurley falling to that second, third round, I haven't seen it. I think it's mainly these Intum, such as our listeners, Dynasty community, that are really like hardballs about it. You know what I mean? Really, really like hard, go at it hard, truly like fantasy addicts almost, that are really like worried about Gurley. I think he's going like in the end of the first round because people are going to take the risk. I don't think he's falling where you think he's falling. And
Right.
we should look up the ADP
But
to find that out.
the thing with Gurley though, we're talking right now, where would we draft him in Dynasty? If we're talking in like redraft leagues, I'd take him uh mid first round because I think he'll still do
Oh.
a great job this year.
No.
Still going to be
All
a
right.
great running back.
So in redraft, I would consider him. He will be on my draft board. I will take him early second. But
Right.
in dynasty, he's off my board. That's the only
Yep.
thing.
Fade. 100%.
Yeah,
And in
Untouchable.
Dynasty, because you don't know how long he's going to be there, but
exactly.
he is going to be the RB1 this season again, and he just came
Could
off a
be.
year in which he was the RB1 overall. He was the
But
top running back overall.
but
He's
again,
not going to immediately fall off the cliff and go
but
to.
but
He's
again,
not going
as
to be one of the worst running backs in the league. He's going to still be a top 5, top 6 running back, and you get him
but
first
it's
round.
risky. If he plays 16 games, he'll be a top 5 running back. I agree to that.
Every
But
player is risky in fantasy. That's what fantasy is.
n-
Fantasy football
but
is
he's
just
more
risk
risky,
reward.
man. Come
Yeah,
on,
he's more
more.
risky. Literally,
Yeah.
the doctor came
Everyone
on.
is, I agree with you, but if you already know that someone is suffering from some kind of knee injuries, why would
You
you even,
fade.
yeah.
Right, but in redraft,
In redraft, I will take
in
him.
dynasty, it's a different story. But in redraft, take him mid late first.
No, I'll take him in second. I'll not take
I'll
him in
take
Yeah,
him.
first.
but
I'll take him
that's what my
mid-second.
value is. That's what my value is because I still think he'll be a top 5 running back.
No, he's not. I'm gonna make a bet
No,
with you right
I
now.
could see him top
Garley
5.
finishes outside the top 12 running backs. I'll take that bet with you right now. And the reason
Deal.
why is because the doctor came on and he literally said Gurley's gonna at least miss a quarter of the season randomly, almost like a Leonard Fournette. This arthritis is gonna come up, and one game Gurley will look good, like the Cowboys game, and then he'll face the Patriots and look like ass. So I'm gonna take that. But
I'll
I
take
want
that
to
bet.
kind of wrap it up here with
Yeah.
that bet, with that fiery bet. And there's gonna be more fiery bets throughout the season. We should start recording these, see who's right, who's wrong. Hinton's gonna be me, but just
We'll
messing
see.
with you. I want to thank everyone here so much for being on and listening through and through. We're almost here at the 90-minute mark, so I want to thank everybody so much for listening. We really love doing this. Everyone was so excited. We even got here early just to talk about it. So we love you guys. Any closing remarks?
No, I just
No.
have one remark for Trenton because I cut him off on the Kenyan Drake train. I just want to say that whatever you were saying about Kenyan Drake was the thing that we were listening about Lamar Miller when he was in Miami, and everyone thought that when he goes to Houston, he'll be this workhorse back, he will get all the touches and see what happened. So I'm not really sold on Kenyan Drake like you are. Maybe he's good at the limited touches that he get. So that was one thing I wanted to say to you.
Right, but overall, I think Kenyon Drake is
He's
so
a
much
value.
better overall than even Lamar Miller, and he's going at such an amazing value, like you
No, I
said.
agree with the
But
value thing, but yeah,
Yeah, no, I
I'm
don't think he's more talented than Miller. Like Miller's actually just like decent. Like he's above just the guy. And even like fantasy football ADP agrees with me there. Because Miller, when he went to Texans, was like a like RB like top 10. And whereas
right,
Drake out of like the top 20, like no, like Kenny Drake is literally just a limited touch guy. That's literally what
yes,
Kenny Drake is. Stop
but
pretending like
like
some
he can be a
RBs are
workhorse.
you
He's
said,
limited.
never been a
what was
workhorse. Why is he all of a sudden gonna be a workhorse? He's not a workhorse.
what was that thing you were talking about the that stat you were looking at where you were looking at all the top guys and it's a good predictor for dynasty running backs?
Oh,
The
yards
yards
created.
created, yeah, but he's
Right,
been in the league for like 3 years now, and it hasn't happened.
3 years is nothing. It's
3 years is plenty.
for 3 years when he gets 10 touches a game max.
Why did he
Maximum
only get
10
10
touches a
But
game.
touches a
but
game last
but you
year?
know what,
Because he
Trenton?
cannot be
Frank Gore.
used.
Frank
But you know
Gore
what?
took
Uh,
those carries.
yards
He's
create.
always had a running back ahead of him or like a running back that he's in a committee with. And this year is the first year that he's actually going to be that lead workhorse running back, and I think he's
Balaj
just
is
going
there.
at amazing value.
Kalen Balaj is there, and the other thing is that yards created doesn't take into account how many carries you had.
Yep, that's
So
who. Yep, I agree with
so
that.
so
Right.
again, and some RBs are just good at limited touches. That's the
And that's
reason
Kenny
why,
and Drake.
and that's the reason why Saints are using Camara as the um, that kind of guy. Why are they not giving such talented guy all the rock? That might
If
be
you
the reason.
seriously think the New England coaches, the New England coaching staff is not going to run a committee, that's crazy, man. All right, I want to stop the Kenny and Drake before we continue with it because
Yeah.
if you want to hear more spicy debates like that, more Kenny and Drake takes, such as "fuck Kenny and Drake," I'm team "fuck Kenny and Drake." I'm gonna get a shirt that says it. Um, you gotta stay tuned
All
for
right.
when we talk about that more later. So we teased you with
Yeah,
that.
we gotta get a Ian Drake debate and a podcast at some
Oh my
And
point.
god, I'm gonna wear my "fuck Kenny and Drake" shirt, dude. So
and you want to say what we are going to discuss next?
yeah, so stay tuned. We'll get to Kenny and Drake eventually. But let's pause that, and we're going to be talking about rookie wide receiver and tight ends, mainstream ones, next episode. And if you want more in-depth analysis, more in-depth players, sleepers, especially for this rookie class, we love talking about them. You gotta leave it in the comments, and you gotta give a thumbs up. We need to know you guys like this, because if you guys don't leave us support and feedback, a view isn't gonna help. We need to know if you like it. Because if otherwise, we're going to try to change our content and make sure it's something you like. So we need a response back. So please, 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 and feel free to leave any Dynasty, any fantasy football questions down in the comment section below, and we may get to those in a future mailbag. We may try to do like one per episode. So please, 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 just try to like interact with us. We're pretty interactive. We love you guys so much.
Then
With that,
make sure you all you viewers share it with your friends, share it in your leagues, share it with anybody you can because we need all you guys to help us out to grow big. We need you all you viewers to help us out. We love you and we
Have
want
yeah,
to
fun.
help you get better and we want to help all your friends get better.
And we would like feedback too. If we can do something better, we would want to do
Right.
that. We are having fun here.
To
We
give
hope
us
you
ideas,
guys are
give us
having fun
feedback.
too. So
Right.
make sure you guys have fun.
yeah. So with that being said, I hope you guys have the nice. English has lost me here, but it's okay because it's the end of the podcast. So, everybody, have a fantastic rest of your day and stay tuned for more great content.